One of my favorite things about winter is a wonderful variety of squashes that appear in our stores. The most common ones you're going to find in grocery stores at the farmer's market are these guys. Butternut squash and acorn squashes. These ones you'll find everywhere. A little less common, but they're still around, are two kinds of delicata squash. These round guys and these long sort of thin ones. They look a bit more like summer squash than winter ones, but these are great. These are very sweet and mealy, and they're really easy to bake. This one is a big favorite, and I'm going to come back to it in a minute. This is a spaghetti squash, and it's great for all you low-carb people out there because you can get kind of faux spaghetti. We've actually got one baked up, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And last but not least, and this is one of my big favorites, it's called kabocha or kalabasa. And this is really a fabulous soup squash. It's one of the ones that's got a very mealy texture and a really nutty taste. Now, squash in general is a really good source of magnesium and potassium. Squash also serves up vitamin C and beta carotene, two antioxidants that protect the cells from damage. And not only is squash nutritious, it's also versatile, as you're about to see. While it's delicious as a side dish, eaten on its own, it's a sweet, nutty flavor, adds itself to many dishes. Winter squash is actually a starch, so if you're thinking about your healthy plate, this needs to be in the same position as the grains. So go easy. Good as it is, you need to go easy. Anyway, keep watching to learn how to make the most. So now this is an acorn squash. These are the smaller ones, along with delicata. Sometimes these are called carnival squash for some reason, but you can actually get ones that are almost small, like an individual serving size. These are quite big. I wouldn't, half of one might be, but not this. But I'm just going to the acorn squash. These are a bit softer. Oops. There we go. Unlike some of the other squashes, these ones are quite juicy, as you can see. Especially in the fall when they're just being picked. Now, there's two things that you can do with this. Well, actually, there's not two, there's several, but okay, I'm just getting the seeds out. And again, just like all squashes, these seeds are edible. You can roast them in the oven, or if you've got a garden, plant them next year. And you'll get a big squash vine and you won't be shopping for them. Okay, so as you can see, these guys, again, if you want to bake them, stuff them and bake them, you can just literally crisscross just to score that and put a little bit of oil in there. And you can sort of bake it about halfway through, about 375 again. And then you can stuff this with different things. You can stuff it with rice, you can stuff it with nuts and different fillings, ground chicken, whatever you fancy. We have a couple of good recipes on the site for this. Or the other thing that I really like to do with squash, and actually I think acorn is really good for that, is to roast it. Now I'm just going to cut it into slices. See how pretty it is? It's like makes like little flowers. Now, you don't need a lot of oil for this. In fact, this is about 1.5 teaspoons. A teaspoon like this is actually not a teaspoon, it's half a tablespoon. Go figure. Whoops. And just toss them in the oil until they're just shining with oil. You could put a lot more in than I have, and it would. This is the perfect way of doing it. Oil. Let little bit of olive oil has gone a long way on there. They've all got a little sheen of the olive oil, and that's all they really need. Just literally going to tip these out onto the parchment paper and spread them out. You don't want them to be on top of each other. Parchment paper is great because it stops them from sticking to the bottom of it. It's really important that they all hit that hot bottom of the baking sheet. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to put them in 425 for about 10-15 minutes, and I'm going to turn them over and then cook them for another 5.